going on, everyone? This is a brand new podcast. We're calling it The Rivals. In it, we're going to be talking about Premier League. We're going to be talking about CONCACAF soccer and any other interesting soccer news out there, as well as our local soccer team. So we're going to get the introductions out of the way first. Anthony, go ahead, take it away.
So, hey everybody, my name is Anthony. I am a Tampa Bay native. Me and Caleb here, I don't know if he got a chance to introduce himself. We're going to be talking soccer like he had said. We are the Rivals, and we're the Rivals for a reason. We rival in Premier League, we rival in the international landscape, and we pretty much argue on about everything. So we're going to be here, we're going to let you listen to our discourse, and well, hopefully you're going to enjoy it. First off, so I will start. I am a Premier League fan. I have been since I was about maybe 11, 12, 13 years old. And I support Chelsea. Go Blues. And Caleb's looking at me and looks like he wants to punch me right now. I'm wearing my jersey. He doesn't appreciate it, but when I was 12, my parents took me on a family trip, and I'd played soccer my whole life, and we went to London, and the first stadium I'd ever been in, soccer stadium, was Stamford Bridge, and it was absolutely incredible. I mean, even if you're not a fan, you love the stadium. It's beautiful. You walk around, you hear that the field is heated. I had never heard that before in my life. It's crazy.
Really? Heated?
It's heated.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, it's heated. You should see the away locker room. First you walk into the Chelsea locker room, and it's magnificent, right? It's beautiful, it's comfy, it's large, and then they're like, okay, let's take you now on, because we did a tour, of course, and they say let's take you to the away locker room, and you walk in, and it looks like you walk back 100 years, right? So it's wooden, it's crappy in there, it's uncomfortable. They were telling us how the way the lockers are set up, it forces the team to bend over more to get their clothes, to reach down, just to make everything uncomfortable as possible. Because that's what they do. You know, it's the Premier League. It's competitive. When, your rivals come in, you want to give them a hard time, So it was an amazing experience. And it was the first stadium I ever been in, and I fell in love. And from then on, I've supported my Blues. And, well, we all know how this season's turning out. I'm one in the table.
So far.
I think Diego Costa is still tied for the leading, the Golden Boot, the leader in the Golden Boot. It's a good season. So, Caleb, why don't you tell us how or why, I guess, we are the Rivals and in what context we're here.
All right, so as he said, we are the Rivals, and I'm a Tottenham Hotspur supporter, and to tell you why I'm a Tottenham supporter, I kind of have to go back a little bit and tell you that I am actually from Mexico. I was born in Mexico, so I grew up watching the Mexican League, and when I moved here, obviously there wasn't a lot of Mexican League on television at that time. I mostly followed the Spanish League as well, because that's what I watched when I was in Mexico. I watched Mexican League and I watched La Liga. And when I moved here, there wasn't a lot of La Liga support. I mean, you had your Barcelona fans and you had your Real Madrid fans, but those are a dime a dozen. So I was mostly a Valencia fan, I'm a big fan of not necessarily the underdog, but maybe not the biggest team.
It's kind of funny that you say that, because my first taste of the Premier League was I watched a Blackburn game. And this had to be when I was even less than, I said, 11 or 12 when I went to Stamford Bridge. So I knew the Premier League, and I watched a Blackburn game, and it was probably a terrible game. It was probably Blackburn versus, back then, who knows, the Wolves or something, maybe Hull or something like that. And I enjoyed it. It was crazy seeing it was on TV, and growing up as a soccer fan, a soccer player, you didn't see that here. The MLS, I'm from Tampa Bay, the Mutiny, we folded. The Rowdies folded at that time, so we didn't have any teams, and it was to see the stadium full. So I actually first started off watching Blackburn.
Interesting.
So I had my not super team, I guess, as well as what you would call them.
Right. That's very interesting. So I couldn't get a lot of Spanish league on television, and I had never followed the English league. It didn't interest me because that's not what I had grown up watching. But I really wanted to talk soccer with someone. I played soccer, and when I wanted to talk soccer, everyone was Liverpool, Arsenal, Chelsea, United. That's all anyone ever talked about. And then I would ask them if they saw the La Liga game, and they said, no, we don't watch that. So I decided that if I wanted to talk soccer with my friends, I had to get into the Premier League. So my friend brought me over to his house, and he's a huge Manchester United fan.
Oh,
but
man.
only because his dad. So his dad grew up a Manchester United fan, and he kind of raised him that way. Hey, what are you gonna do?
I'm shaking my head, everybody.
I know.
I'm shaking my head.
It happens. So he brought me over, and he said, let's watch some games, and then you can pick a team. So I already knew off the start that I wasn't going to pick Arsenal, Chelsea, Liverpool, or United. Because at that time, those were the 4 biggest teams, and they had been finished in the top 4 for the last
4 or 5 years, probably.
Probably more than that, yeah. I think the last team that had broken into the top had been Blackburn, and that was like...
Hey, they were good back then,
Right.
This was 10 years ago or more. They weren't relegated. They were good.
Right. So I didn't want to what I call bandwagon teams, because
Your Barcelona, your Real Madrid.
Exactly, your Bayern Munich's, that kind of thing. So I actually watched for a couple of months, and I was actually, funny story, between Manchester City and Tottenham.
And we have to remember this is Manchester City
billions
of dollars.
Exactly.
Right.
This was before they were bought out. This was when they were garbage. They were a mid-table team that hadn't won a league title in almost as long as Tottenham.
Mm-hmm.
So, and what really, I don't know, I don't know what got me to pick Tottenham over City. And I'm glad I did. I guess. Yeah, for sure. It's a weird thing how I could have been a City fan.
Before they were
big.
Before they were City. Before
Right.
they had the logo change. They have
the billions. So that's how I ended up picking. Them because I liked the way they played. I was a big fan of Defoe and Keane, and I really just enjoyed their style. They weren't very good at the time. This was even before Harry Redknapp took over, and they were like low. They were not doing well that year. I think it was the year after they won the last League Cup that they won. And so that's how I became a Tottenham fan. I decided this is the team. They're decent, but they're not great. But they're also not horrible. This is a team I can get behind. And that was when Fox had the Premier League. And so I was able to watch and talk about it. And, look how far we've come. We went from the relegation spot, Martin Jol being fired, Harry Redknapp getting hired, going to the Champions League, beating Inter and AC Milan, and then playing Real Madrid in the quarterfinals. And now, we're contenders for the top 4. We haven't finished below the top 4. Below the top 5 since I started watching, except twice. So,
maybe you're the fan that pushed them along, huh?
That would
you're
be
the
something.
last domino.
Yeah, I guess. But we're also rivals in the international scene. Obviously.
That we are. I don't know how we maintain our friendship, to be honest with you, between these two. So, as you can tell, I was born and raised here in the United States. Caleb gave you a little preview before, which should have kicked him in the leg. But he is Mexican, born in Mexico. That's correct, right?
Right.
Right. And so, as you can see where we're going, we are international rivals. And I think it's one of the biggest rivalries. I support, obviously, the United States men's national team. And Caleb?
Yeah, definitely. The Mexican national team.
And we've had our games, we've had our arguments.
Right.
Listen, as far as I can remember, the U.S. team is something you watch, right? The World Cup comes around and first off, everybody, I don't care if you're a soccer fan or not, you watch the World Cup and you support your team. And, well, I mean, the good thing about the United States, we might not be the most competitive team, but we don't miss World Cups, right? Well, should hold my tongue. We're down in our qualifiers right now, thanks to Jurgen. But we're there. We're in the World Cup every time, and it's a joy to watch and to put on the USA jersey and just support, There's just certain players, or certain even plays that you just remember. We can go back to the Landon Donovan last-minute goal. It's just the Tim Howard throws it to him. He takes it 90 yards and puts it in the top net. It's unbelievable. So it's great to be a U.S. fan sometimes. Sometimes you want to, hurt yourself. But we've got a long way to go, and we've come a long way. So I guess I'll pass it along to you, and you can tell us about the...
Yeah. So I guess for me it was a little different because, I don't know, back in Mexico, soccer isn't a 4-year kind of thing. It's like every single second of every single day.
Oh, that's not fair. Come on, you're poking at me right now. I was just trying to say the World Cup.
I'm just joking. But no, when I moved here, it wasn't that big of a deal. When I moved to the U.S., soccer wasn't as big as it is now. Mostly because, I guess, the international leagues weren't shown on television, and the MLS wasn't as big as it is now. In fact, when did the MLS?
It's
96.
It's 20 years.
96.
We're going, I think, on our 21st season for the MLS, so, and the game's not strong here. We know that.
Right.
But I've been playing soccer since I was 6 years old, so I've been following soccer since I was 6 years old.
Your average sports fan hadn't, though.
Oh, no, absolutely not. I had my soccer friends, and I had friends who had no idea what the hell was going on.
Yeah.
They'd come to the high school games and cheer us on, but that's just an excuse to get out and be rowdy.
I got what you did.
You see what
there.
I did there?
Yeah,
okay.
I did that.
Well, that's another preview for the next segment.
Right. But to me, soccer has definitely grown in the U.S., and that's wonderful because it's more fun for me as well, just as a soccer fan in general, as a fan of the sport. But back home, I mean, I remember my first World Cup was Italy '92, and I remember watching it. I was, how old was I? Like 8.
He's really dating himself now, guys. Everybody listen closely.
Right. I was 8 years old, 8-ish. And I remember Mexico, we made it to the next round. We made it out of the group stage, and we were playing, I believe it was Bulgaria. And we were up 1-0, second half, and Bulgaria just made this huge comeback, ended up beating us 2-1, and I remember crying. I was little, and I was heartbroken. It was the worst. But that's how I grew up. I grew up watching just being a diehard fan from birth. So moving here at first wasn't so bad because, to be fair, the U.S. wasn't a very big rival recent.
If you look at past history, it hasn't been a rivalry.
Right.
We've been getting stomped up and down the playground, and you guys spit in our face and laugh at us.
It wasn't until 98.
Right.
Or I would say the World Cup, 96. When you guys hosted the World Cup, that's when you guys really became a step up.
That was big for the U.S. in general. We get home turf. We get, the rest of the country to actually see what the World Cup is and enjoy it for the first time,
Yeah.
A lot of people, soccer's a sissy sport. Oh, why do they fall? Why do they dive? This isn't America's sport.
Right.
And so finally we got to shove it in their face and say, enjoy this.
Right.
The rest of the world does, why don't you?
Yeah.
And it's coming along. But right now we have our tough games. I mean, we could talk about the Gold Cup. We could talk about the Federations Cup. We could talk about anything. And you guys might play us off the field sometimes, but we're there. We're in there, right?
Absolutely.
The possession might be 60-40, but it's heartbreaking to watch sometimes.
And that's what I'm saying. I'm saying it wasn't like that before, so I never considered, when we played the U.S., to me it wasn't a big deal. It wasn't until, I would say, that 2002 World Cup game, that was probably the moment where I thought I didn't take the rivalry seriously the Mexican fans didn't take the rivalry seriously, and the players obviously didn't take the rivalry seriously. And that was the moment to me where I hated the U.S. play. Like, I hated them.
Perfect.
On a personal level. Like, I wanted Landon Donovan to break his knees and never play soccer again. That's how deep that day it felt that
Now,
deep.
see,
to me.
I almost want to jump across the table because Landon Donovan is an American hero. But this is great for soccer, for American soccer, for soccer in general. I would argue, and I've been a baseball fan my whole life as well, but this rivalry is beginning to rival the Boston Red Sox and the Yankees. You know, teams like this, the LA Lakers in basketball versus Celtics. This rivalry is getting there, and I joke I'm not going to jump across the table and you know, I might, but. It's good. It's good for both teams. It's good for the marketing. It's good for everything. It's good for the game in general, I think. So, I mean, thankfully we could at least, you know, have this.
Right. But I would take it a step further and say, from about 2002 to maybe a few years ago, the rivalry was really bitter. I think now the rivalry has gotten less about hating each other and more about the actual game. Because I remember from about 2002, like all the 2000s, it was just like the players punching each other, red cards everywhere.
Well,
like
that's Liga MX every weekend, right?
that's not incorrect. But that's what I'm saying. Like, there was this thing where Rafa Marquez would headbutt the U.S. player, or Landon Donovan would piss on this in the stadium, like in a show of disrespect.
He's an American hero, like I said.
Right, but those things have kind of left the rivalry, and what we're actually left with now is an actual competitive, on-the-field rivalry, and I think that's much better because I don't feel that hatred anymore. Like, I don't hate the current crop of U.S. players. I obviously want to win every time. There's at no point do I say.
I mean, I'd probably pinch you if you didn't want to
right.
win every time.
Like, even friendlies, like, there's no such thing, right?
There's not a friendly between us.
But that's what I'm saying. I don't hate the players anymore. I respect the rivalry now. Whereas before, I don't think I could have said that.
I think it's because it's competitive now, and they both, every time they take the field, I think the players feel the same way. There's not a friendly, there's not tying. It's go big or
Right.
go home every single time, and you could watch it. You watch the past couple of games between us, and we're not parking the bus anymore.
Right.
You know, we're going for it. We go for it in the Azteca now. I mean, before we used to walk in and be like, you know what, we're gonna sit back and just try and keep this, a 0-0 or 1-1 or something. But now it's each and every time we play each other, someone is going for the win.
Right. And that's good because it's exciting.
It's exciting.
It's a little nerve-wracking.
I mean, I think I peed myself a couple times during the games, especially these last couple of games.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, you guys have got the better of us these past couple.
So what would you say is your favorite U.S.-Mexico moment?
You're asking something hard of me now. I mean, there's so many. I mean, these recent ones have been good.
Yeah.
And I don't want to sound like, it's maybe because these are freshest in my memory, but these last two, I mean, for you guys stealing those points in California, it was brutal. But
what, Columbus?
Yeah, I mean, in Columbus, yeah. But the one before that,
the CONCACAF Cup.
The CONCACAF Cup, where, I mean, first off, we have to say that me and Caleb had talked about this for weeks, and he told me he was boycotting this game, right?
Yes.
You weren't going to watch it.
Well, let me tell you why. Let me tell them why.
Why don't you tell them why?
Here's why. Because, what year are we in? What?
This is 2017?
Yeah, so it was 2013, I think. Just 2013 Gold Cup? 14.
Which one are you talking about?
The one where Mexico got through to the final because of the ref. Was it 13?
Oh, yes. You mean because of multiple refs in multiple games awarding multiple penalties?
No, it was.
You're not talking about that one.
No, but it was one. Okay, so it was the Panama game, Panama-Mexico, where Panama went down to 10 men, and And instead of playing better, Mexico played worse. Panama ended up scoring. We laid siege to their goal, couldn't get it. And what's that ref's name? He's a U.S. ref, which was even weirder.
I'm not going to be able to. Maybe I could pull it up later, but not now.
So there's no question in the world. Now, mind you, I was in Nicaragua visiting my family at the time, and I was watching this game. I was like, we deserve to lose. We deserve to be eliminated from this competition. And the first penalty kick was absolutely not a penalty kick. It wasn't a penalty kick, and no universe was at a penalty kick. Now, Guardado stepped up and took the penalty kick, and he made it. And it's funny that later on he actually said he considered not scoring it. Do you know that? But he couldn't do...
I don't know if I believe that. He was going to step up and put it away every time.
Right. No, he said he had an obligation to the nation and the team to score it, but in his heart he wanted to miss it because he knew it wasn't fair.
Was this the
Geiger?
Gold, was this Geiger? Yes,
Geiger's his name.
Was this the Gold Cup semifinal? Is this the game you're talking about?
This is the semifinal.
Right.
Then we go into overtime. Now we're tied 1-1. Right. That second penalty kick was a penalty kick. We score that penalty kick. We make it to the final. We ended up beating Jamaica in the final handily. That same year, you guys didn't even make the final. You guys got beat in the semis.
I mean, I'm not going to apologize for Jurgen Klinsmann and his performances against CONCACAF teams.
My point was, we won the Gold Cup. We should have gone to Confederations. But we're the only confederation in the world that does their continental tournament every 2 years. Every other one does it every 4. And the reason I was going to boycott this game was because, I've told you this in the past, I think that the U.S. hosting it every time is unfair for the rest of the countries.
And we've had this argument, and what are we supposed to put it in St. Kitts?
Yes.
Nevis?
Yes.
On the little island in St. Kitts?
We co-host it. Japan, Korea did it in the World Cup. Costa Rica, Honduras could co-host a Gold Cup. It's not like we're like this huge, glamorous competition anyway. It's not like the Euros.
Yeah, but I feel safer for my players being in in beautiful hotels in Southern California and in Columbus. I mean, maybe Ohio's not the safest place. But,
So, aside from the fact that I don't agree that one country should host it every time, I also don't think that the past 2 winners should play to see who moves on. It should be one competition every 4 years. The winner goes. So I felt like we had earned the right to go because we won.
Well, I mean, earning the right is a little loose statement there because you did say you should not have had that penalty.
We should not have made the final, but we did, and we won.
I mean,
so that's why I told you I wasn't watching it. That's why, because I felt like A, the competition is a farce. B, we shouldn't have made it in the first place, and C, we did make it. We did win it. We shouldn't have to play you guys for that last spot.
But if I'm not mistaken, let's go back to that Gold Cup and our loss to Jamaica. I could be wrong here, but I think this is one of those games where we got shafted. We were on the other side, so you guys had the penalty for you against Panama. Is this the game? And I'm trying to remember back. I don't have the best memory, but is this the game where Guzan goes to throw the ball out from the 18-yard box and they call a handball because his hand was outside?
I think it was.
And then they gave subsequently they gave a
but
free
it wasn't.
kick.
It was a free kick, yes.
And he put it away, though.
Put it away.
When is that ever called against the goalkeeper? A and B. Come on.
You're right. It was definitely.
It was a bogus call, and it changed the game.
Absolutely. But you got to remember that was also the time that Jamaica scored 2 goals from throw-ins.
Yes, they did. I mean, I'm just saying there was inconsistency in reffing.
And that's why I keep telling you the Gold Cup is a farce. It's a joke. It's not taken seriously on the international level. Like it's a joke, and it really needs to be reorganized. But we can talk about that some other time. So that's why I didn't want to watch Confederations Cup. Right. And yes, I told you.
So we skip ahead
to
the week before the Confederations Cup, and over and over and over again. There's no way I'm missing the game, so I'm going to watch it. We talk about it. And what does Caleb say over and over again?
I'm not watching it. I'm boycotting it.
And over again, he says this and he repeats this. And you know what? I took the man seriously. I thought, he was good for his word to not watch it. And so the night comes, and I'm watching the game, and it is an absolutely phenomenal game, right? It's back and forth, goals. It was definitely one of the monumental games, I think, that creates this rivalry and is just a beautiful game in general. And so I think I texted you, right? Is that what happened?
I think so. You said something like, you should really be watching this game. It's really good. And I texted you, I have a confession to make.
And I knew right there from that moment.
I had been watching the entire time.
You son of a bitch. You were watching the entire time.
The entire time. I had to. Like, there was something I couldn't. Like,
There's no way you were missing it.
My hand just reached for the remote and turned it on.
But you were so adamant.
I was.
That you weren't going to watch the game.
I said that. And now I'm saying it again. I don't want to watch the Gold Cup again, but of course I'm going to.
You're going to.
I'm going to. So is that your moment? That game?
Oh, that game was... I mean, it was a phenomenal game. The ending, once again...
That goal, the game-winning, was one of the best goals in the rivalry.
It just seems like we turn off in the last minute against Mexico. We give all of our energy for, 90 minutes or whatever, and then we have Rafa Marquez in this last game scoring a header on us.
Yeah.
What was it, the last minute or a couple?
Yeah.
And then, what was it?
I think it was Paulo Aguilar.
Aguilar,
The ball bounced up, and he one-timed it into the net.
Yeah.
I freaked out. I think it was like midnight at the time.
Oh, it was a late game because I think it was on the other coast.
Yeah, and I'm pretty sure I woke my neighbors. I definitely scared my dog.
I mean, my significant other had gone to sleep. I think I maybe scared our cat at the time. Yeah. I was upset. It was a great game, though. It was. Just if you were an objective viewer, if you didn't have a stake in the game, it's a phenomenal game to watch. It's back and forth. It's beautiful television.
It was a very good game, I have to admit. So I would say my favorite U.S.-Mexico moment was definitely I think it was the 2000, I don't even remember the year anymore, but I remember you guys had gone up 2-0 in the first half. Donovan had scored a really good goal, and you guys were up 2-0.
2-0.
Yeah. Except we ended up coming back and winning 4-2.
I remember that game. I hate that game with a passion. I wiped it from memory. I don't remember it anymore. I guess I'm gonna have to relive it now. I guess we're gonna have to do this a lot during this pod.
I guess so.
In different ways. I don't know what to say.
It wasn't just the comeback. It was the fact that if you had taken that scoreline 10 years before, we would have lost that game. We didn't have the mental fortitude to come back against you guys. Maybe against any other team in the world, we would have done something. But I felt like we had this thing where we had this emotion that if we went down to the U.S., we would just lose our heads. Like, people would start slide tackling, studs up, and
I think that's, and I'm going to be mean here, but we're the rivals and this is what we do, but I think that's the Mexico team in general. There's no question the talent they have on the field, right? I mean, I'm an objective person. I can say that. They're great players. But they lose their heads quickly, right?
Yes.
When they don't have possession, when things aren't going their way, they're quick to anger.
Yes. And I think that moment was the turning point, because instead of doing that, instead of slide tackling, instead of trying to take players out of the game, we just buckled down. We scored a goal before halftime, and then we tied it up. And then when we tied it, you could tell there was only going to be one winner. And my moment, my favorite goal of all time, was the fourth one, Gio Dos Santos, coming into the box, Chicharito holding the ball up in the corner, sending it back to Gio, and Gio just dribbling through every U.S. defender in the box and placing it in the top corner, the only spot that Howard couldn't reach. And I remember freaking out. I threw my control. I remember I was in bed watching it, and I just threw my TV remote against the wall. I was freaking out so much. But that would have to be my...
I think that's the game that got Bob Bradley fired, too.
Yes, he was fired promptly after that game.
Yes, he was, and he reached the Gold Cup final, which is crazy because we're in the final, we're up 2-0. If he wins that final, he probably keeps his job.
Absolutely.
And then we go to the Jurgen Klinsmann era, and he's losing in semifinals to Jamaica, and somehow keeps his job. So,
yeah,
I guess that's another conversation for another day. But But yeah, that game was a great game. Michael Bradley's header was phenomenal for the first goal. It was a good game, and once again, I keep saying this, but we came out on the wrong end of it, and we'll get them back.
Yeah, I fully expected to lose in Columbus recently.
I would say we recently lost our stronghold, I guess, our castle, or our Azteca.
Right.
And it's unfortunate, but the rivalry goes on, guys. It's gonna be there, and it's always gonna be there, and it's gonna be fun, and it's only gonna get better, I think.
Right. But now we can talk about something we do agree on.
Very few things that we do agree on.
Soccer-wise.
Soccer. I guess we could say soccer is one of the things we do agree on.
Right.
But yeah, we can talk about our local soccer, I guess.
Right.
Huh?
Tampa Bay Rowdies.
Yeah, the Tampa Bay Rowdies. They are exciting right now, aren't they? This is just a great time to be a Rowdies fan. This last year, for you, I know it's you becoming a Rowdies fan,
right.
And I like to see that growth, and I'm going to keep pushing you until you have season tickets with me one day.
Right.
But first off, we could talk about how today we have a billboard in Times Square.
Right.
Who saw that coming?
Right.
That's crazy.
It's insane.
Yeah, I've been on Twitter, I've been on the Reddit, and I see lots of people there. This is a waste of money. This is bad advertisement. But you know what? I like to look at it differently. If you're familiar with MLS, you know the headquarters is actually in New York, and I think it's about a couple blocks down the road. I think this is our man, Bill Edwards, who we love.
Right.
And if you're listening to this, Bill, if you need legal interns or taking on mentorship or something like that, we are here. If you need just one, I'm here. Don't worry about Caleb. We love the guy, but I think this is a statement, right? I think this is him saying, I have money, I'm willing to use it. Recognize us, right? Recognize the Rowdies, recognize MLS to St. Pete.
Recognize the potential rivalry between Orlando
and St. and we see all the haters on Twitter too. They're if
mostly Orlando fans.
Yeah, the Orlando fans saying this. They're the ones who are really saying this is a waste of money and why are we doing this. But listen, I think it's a statement. I think it's him saying I've got money, I'm willing to spend it and give us a chance.
Right. I think it's super exciting. As someone that has never really been into the MLS, this is making me want to get into it. If we can somehow, if Bill Edwards can get this to happen, this is huge for soccer here in the Tampa Bay area. I think one of the things we've mentioned throughout this whole pod today, this whole episode, is that soccer in America is growing, right? The MLS is just expanding at an unprecedented rate. Every year we have 2 new teams coming in. So this couple seasons ago we had NYCFC and Orlando join together. This season we're going to have Atlanta United in Minnesota. I think slotted for 2018 is going to be LAFC, who is going to rival the Galaxy, and then supposedly Miami, or Beckham's Miami. Right. I don't see that happening. Maybe he's had a long time. He's been working on this for 4 years. Don Garber, the commissioner of MLS, gave him a sweet deal to start a franchise there. I think the franchise fee right now is you have to buy into the MLS is at $125 million right now that you just have to fork up front to get a franchise into the MLS. Right. And I think I read that Beckham is gets a sweet deal of $25 million or something. So they really want the team in Miami, but no stadium. No plan for a stadium yet. Players? No players. There's the NASL team, the Miami FC, but they're not affiliated at all with Beckham's group. I don't even see fans coming out for Beckham's group and saying we want MLS. Listen, the Rowdies have a great package put together. Every year for the last 3 or 4 years, the Rowdies' attendance has gone up. Right, so normally you see when a team comes back, it's big numbers up front, then it slowly dwindles, right? But we're just steadily going up. The stadium is beautiful. Yes. I know you can attest that. I brought you to a couple games now. We went to Florida Cup, 2 weekends back. I think, what was it? Is that 2 weekends back? Yeah.
We got to see Chicharito, Wolfsburg, the Rowdies, and their trialists
Right.
in freezing cold weather, by the way, in Florida.
Right. The coldest it's been in a while.
Yeah, I was.
So it's funny because the German teams take that winter break to get away from the cold, and then they came to St. Pete
for the one day that it was cold.
for the one day that it was cold. Yeah,
I mean, for them, they were probably still in tank tops and
Right.
shorts, but for us, it was
cold. When the sun went down,
when the first game wasn't bad. When the sun went down for the second game,
we got real close.
we were cuddled up with the blanket, hot cocoa.
Yeah. But no, you're right. The stadium is beautiful. You can see downtown from one end, and you can see the bay from the other. It's absolutely amazing.
There's no other stadium like that in the country. Honestly, there isn't. You can, and a lot of people say they don't like the gaps because it doesn't create the stadium atmosphere. But I mean, just looking at the water is beautiful. Looking at downtown is beautiful. And then this plan they have.
Right.
Tell me this stadium plan is not juicy looking.
Yeah.
It is something to admire, and just I mean, I've got the picture on my Twitter. I think I'm gonna fall asleep to it every night, put it on my pillow. I don't know. It is the stadium is going to look beautiful if we get it. And,
right.
I mean, that's
what he's pushing for. That's what Edwards is pushing. And
yeah. I mean,
if we get in, he's going to expand the stadium. He
right.
said that.
He was upfront about that. That if MLS, then stadium. You know, it's not one or the other.
Right.
So it's going to be fun. It's going to be exciting. We're going to see a bunch of games this season.
Yeah. And, you know, the thing is, it was exciting when we were talking about it locally, but to see it in New York, that was, when you showed me that was really, I was like, this could really happen, man.
Right, it gets you super excited.
Exactly.
It shows that the brand can be expanded. It shows that, because think about it. Most people, if you're not, you know, a big soccer fan, especially here in the United States, you don't know the NASL, you don't know the USL, you know MLS, maybe, you know your Premier Leagues, your La Liga teams, right? So, being on that stage, being in the MLS is just huge. And, I mean, what's better than having a team to play in FIFA, right?
Right.
The day I could play with the Rowdies in FIFA is, I think, the day my life is complete. And
sounds about right.
I don't know what else I would have to offer anymore after that. I mean, it's huge. It is a really exciting time to be a local fan, especially of the Tampa Bay Rowdies and in soccer in general. So yeah, what else we got to talk about, or we're looking to wrap this up for today?
I think we can wrap it up.
Sounds good to me. So we are the Rivals.
We are. I hope you guys have enjoyed this this pilot episode, and I hope you guys will tune in the future because we have a lot to talk about.
Yeah. Just a foreshadow. We're gonna end up talking about the Premier League. We're gonna talk about CONCACAF. And we're gonna talk about your local soccer here in Tampa Bay, the Tampa Bay Rowdies. So, you know, we're going to talk about Chelsea's push, their remarkable turnaround from last season, since everybody's giving me crap about that.
Yeah.
And we'll talk about Tottenham and their dust, and
right.
We'll talk transfers. We'll talk CONCACAF. We're going to talk Gold Cup, because that's going to be coming up here soon. World Cup qualifiers, World Cup.
And I'll be talking about Confederations Cup, since we're participating, and you can just listen as I talk about it.
This is going to go back and forth all the time, guys. This is how it's going to be.
Yeah.
It's going to be interesting. So, yeah, we are the Rivals.
Yeah. See you guys.
Take care. We'll see you next time.